you, you bring your laptop with you on vacation so you don't feel behind when you get back. Or maybe you finally get a weekend with nothing on your calendar, and instead of feeling relaxed, you feel anxious. You check your phone, you doom scroll. Okay, so maybe you get some laundry done, but you can't shake this feeling that you're supposed to be somewhere, supposed to be doing something. We say that we want to take a break, and when one finally shows up, it feels wildly uncomfortable. I mean, let's be honest. You sit down on the couch expecting an exhale, and instead your body starts acting like you're doing something illegal, right? So why is it so hard to slow down? And how do we actually rest without feeling guilty? This question is sort of a Mount Everest for so many of us, wanting to go at a little bit of a slower pace in a world that worships doing stuff. We relish in that busyness and we wear it like a badge of honor. And we celebrate the hustle. So our nervous system has now begun to equate a state of activation, a state of being busy and doing stuff, with the state that feels the most familiar and therefore the safest, and a state of rest and a state of relaxing as the place that is uncomfortable and therefore dangerous, so we avoid it. I know this feeling all too well myself. Anyone who knows me would very easily describe me as ambitious, a go-getter, an achiever, and it's all true. Back in 2013, I had a career that I really enjoyed, and not one, but two side hustles, because, And I was winning all sorts of awards, literally being rewarded for everything I was achieving. And on the outside, it looked like I was unstoppable. But on the inside, I was unraveling. I started experiencing all these symptoms, and I kept ignoring all of them too. Things like I was tired no matter how much sleep I got. I was never truly able to focus, but yet weirdly able to get stuff done. I was always a little bit irritable, maybe a lot irritable. And I had a really difficult time connecting with other people on any sort of meaningful level. I went on a lot of first dates during that time. And one day, my body said, "You're done." And it got louder, and it shut me down. And at about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was violently awoken with a horrible pain right here in my back. I was stunned to find out that pain was shingles. I was in my 30s. I don't know about you, but any commercial I've ever seen for a shingles vaccine shows people who are definitely not in their 30s, right? We all hit this wall in a different way. For some people, it's illness like it was for me, and some people, it's much more significant illness. For some people, it's this underlying anxiousness that never really goes away. For some, it's this fatigue that almost makes you question, am I depressed? Why don't I have any energy? And for some, it's this little voice inside that's trying to tell you that you have lost yourself somewhere in this hustle, and you have no idea what even lights you up anymore. You don't even want it. You don't even know if you want to be passionate about anything. Yeah? So when I was under my shingles quarantine in my 30s, was the first time that I ever really took a hard look at myself. And I wondered, why was it so difficult for me to actually find the words? Why couldn't I just say, you know what? I'm worn out. It's because I chose that hustle. I chose everything I was doing in my life, and it felt a little unfair and a little embarrassing to admit that it was causing so much catastrophe on the inside. Why was it so difficult for me to give myself permission to slow down, even when I had a doctor's note to do so? During this time, I also started noticing a pattern in myself and in other people, something that I call the 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps are procrastination, perfectionism, and people-pleasing. Have I said yours? You betcha. Are you more than one of those things? Probably. Procrastination shows up when your brain says, I can't take any more. It's too much output, it's too much input, and you have such decision fatigue that if someone asks you what's for dinner, you might thump on them a little bit because you just don't know. Or do you care? So then you start to beat yourself up with all this negative self-talk, like, why can't I just get it together? Why am I so lazy? This is your nervous system doing its job. It's protecting you from the overload, and it's forcing you into a state of pausing so that you can recalibrate. And then we have perfectionism. Oh, yes. This shows up when you're burning out as this incessant need to keep going no matter how much gas is left in your tank, because you believe that you have not done enough yet to deserve that break. How could you possibly take a break when there's still stuff to do? Yeah. And people-pleasing is the trickiest one of all, because this one is socially rewarded. You are helpful. You are reliable. You're the person who will always show up no matter what. And our nervous system's most desired state is that of social connection. So there is a dumpster fire going on behind you, and your brain craves predictability in your environment. And a surefire way to do that is to control the relationships in your life so that you can be sure that you feel like you belong. Yeah. There's some really interesting science that sort of talks about how these things show up in the workplace. A fascinating study in the Kansas Journal of Medicine asked the question, what is the biggest predictor of productivity? Is it how many hours we work? Is it our ambition, our drive, our commitment to the company culture? It turns out that the number one predictor of productivity is psychological well-being. When you are stressed, you underperform. When you are rested, you perform better. The science is very clear on that. One of the challenges that we have with this is that we have no idea what it means to take a break. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit. There are two basic kinds of rest. There's passive rest and active rest. Passive rest is going to be things like meditation, a mindfulness activity, napping maybe, laying by the pool without your laptop, doing nothing. Active rest is things like going for a walk outside, not on a treadmill, getting creative in your kitchen maybe, finally painting the living room, cleaning out the garage. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a terrible honey-do list for the weekend. This sounds like chores, and it doesn't sound restful at all. It sounds like I'm about to have a fight with my partner is what it sounds like, right? I'll let you think about that one for a minute. Here's the thing, though. Rest is not the absence of activity. It's the presence of recovery. I'm going to say that again. Rest is not the absence of activity. It's the presence of recovery. When you are doing something a little mentally mundane, like painting the living room, you are able to actually process your emotions from the week, and your brain is able to recalibrate and reset in a way that allows you to return to the things that require most of your mental bandwidth most of the time. People who are rested are more creative. They are more collaborative, and guess what? They're nicer to be around. Remember that irritability we were talking about before? It's there. Countries around the world are starting to take note of this. There are many places like France, Portugal, and Italy, just to name a few, that have enacted legislation known as the right to disconnect. The right to disconnect empowers employees to step away and disengage from work outside of working hours. Stop taking Zoom calls when you're at the beach. Stop looking at your text when you're at your kid's activity. Why would lawmakers take on such things? Why would they care? Well, it's pretty easy when you think about it. Companies are losing billions of dollars in lost productivity annually due to disengagement, illness, absenteeism. People are walking around anxious, depressed, and they can't focus. When you are rested, you perform better. So from here on out, we're all going to agree to do 3 things. We are going to name and reframe. We're going to choose micro over monumental. And we are going to return with intention. I'm going to break this down and make it super easy to understand. First thing we're going to do is name and reframe. When you can name how you're feeling, simply saying, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I'm angry, I need a break. We want to do this when we're having a good day also by saying things like, I'm so excited that we get to start this new project today. When we are stressed, the amygdala is the part of our brain that becomes super active. And when that happens, the prefrontal cortex responsible for executive function goes offline. When you are stressed, you are literally not in your right mind, okay? It's true. When you name your emotional state, that system reverses almost instantly. The activity inside the amygdala decreases, and executive function returns. You're going to remember why you walked into that room, just simply naming how you're feeling. The next thing we're going to name is the fear behind why you're so afraid to take a break. Usually, it's because of what the implication is to the relationship on the other side. Will they think I'm lazy or uncommitted or unpromotable if I take a break? Will they think I'm a bad parent if I don't go to my kids' practice? Will they think I'm a bad friend if I decide to stay in instead of going out? When you can get really clear with yourself about what that fear is, you are able to actually move through the resistance, thereby giving yourself the ability to take a break without feeling guilty. And reframing this break as not something that you have to earn or deserve, or something that only lazy people do, or only when your inbox is empty, but the actual ultimate productivity hack, and one of the best things you can do for your mental health. We're going to choose micro over monumental. Now, I wish I had sleeves on so I could roll them up, because this is the part where I get real excited. This is the part that we are really screwing up, okay? We tend to over-catastrophize our own lives, and we tend to make our lives way more complicated than they need to be. We do not have to be all or nothing, right? If you have a salad at lunch and a cheeseburger at dinner, well, might as well just not do any of it, right? Stop making it so complicated. A landmark study out of West Virginia University found that in as little as 12 minutes a day, with intentional practices such as listening to a specific type of music and doing a specific type of meditation, not only improved cognitive function, but improved sleep, memory, focus, happiness, and productivity. 12 minutes a day. Take your lunch away from your desk and sign up for the pickleball class and go have coffee with your friend. Next, we're going to return with intention, asking yourself, where can I get 10% softer? Can I get 10% softer in my tone of voice? Can I get 10% softer in the pace of my thoughts? Can I get 10% softer in my physical body? And then returning to your next meeting or email or conversation, 10% lighter. Yeah? The Italians have this incredible practice called il dolce far niente, which means the sweetness of doing nothing. And the Americans, well, we say things like, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. Let's go. What are we doing? We are all walking around with tight hips, and our butt cheeks are clenched in, and our shoulders are up in our ears, and our jaw's tight, and our brows furrowed, and you haven't slept in 3 nights, and someone walks in your office and says, can you help me out? And you go, yeah, sure, man, what do you need? This is not the time to do that. This is the time to say, can you just give me a few minutes? This is what you have been waiting for. Someone to show you this roadmap of how you can stop doing everything and rest from all of the productivity, rest from all of the people-pleasing, rest from proving to yourself and others so that you can be in the rest of your life. Thank you.